Hello, and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the comments section below. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of my favorite easy to grow houseplants. Because let's face it, when you grow houseplants, you want them to do well. So I suggest these different species of houseplants to people that are starting out, or maybe you're adding to your collection. You've got a lot on your plate in terms of your collection, and you don't necessarily want to add a really hard plant right now. These plants are pretty easy to grow. I like to refer to them as hardy for indoor growing. And there are a few criteria that I use when I look at plants in terms of them being easy to grow indoors. So for beginners and for, like I mentioned, people that have been growing indoors for a long time, but they aren't looking for another challenge. Maybe they're spending a lot of time on some of their challenges and just want to add some more plants. Put a plant in a particular room where you may not, hopefully not forget about it completely, but you may not be taking care of it as often and that sort of thing. So some things I look for. One of the things I look for is drought tolerance, the ability to be okay if you forget to water. Not many plants, however, are okay with overwatering, so I don't necessarily look for that. Maybe plants that would be less likely to get diseases, to succumb, however, to root rot if they are overwatered a little bit, is maybe slower to succumb to root rot, but all plants will eventually if they continue to be overwatered, so keep that in mind. However, things like one of my favorites, the peace lily here, really pretty plant, beautiful foliage and easy to grow, blooms with a white flower occasionally and it can be grown into medium to low, even low light, not no light, but lower light. This one, you can forget to water it and it will spring back, and it won't have a lot of leaf loss, because there are plants that, yes, they will spring back after you've droughted them. However, they will lose a lot of leaves. Maidenhair fern is known for that. If you can even get it to revive, you most likely will have half a plant when it does, if you forget to water it. So that is definitely not on the list of easy plants. The other thing to keep in mind too is plants that have a thicker leaf. A lot of the times, a thicker, more sturdy leaf, those are the ones you're going to be able to drought a little bit more, and those are the ones that do end up in my list of easy to grow. So another big plant family, and I have another video on them that was done recently too, is the dracaenas. So the dracaenas, I love the dracaenas. These are gorgeous plants. They have so many different cultivars. They have the multiple different types of variegation, and this one's really pretty. Here's another really pretty one here too. So another dracaena. These, you can see, have a little thicker, sturdier leaf than a lot of plants. Another dracaena here too. So same thing, thicker, sturdier leaves, and they also do well. They will do well with some droughting. They also tend not to get pests and diseases is another thing. So susceptibility to pests and diseases, another thing that I like to look at in terms of easy to grow plants. And all of these are easier to grow in those terms, because less susceptibility. Not to mean that they won't have pests and diseases, but they do tend to have less of them. And if they do have them, they tend to spring back a lot easier when you treat them too. So another really good example of what I'm talking about in terms of a thick leaf here. So this is Sansevieria. So this one is a succulent, and it does really well indoors. Very nice one. Really easy plant to grow. One of the easiest. You can forget about it, and it will still be doing okay. So that one you would not want to overwater, but underwatering it, you do want to underwater it because it is a succulent. And it does best with when it's dry before you water it again. So that's another type of plant, and you can see with this plant too, very sturdy, thick leaves, because the thick leaves hold moisture in longer than thinner leaves. I mentioned maidenhair fern as being very difficult. Maidenhair fern also has very thin, fine, delicate leaves, so that's an indicator. Not always an indicator, but a lot of times an indicator. Another really easy to grow plant, all of the palms are very easy to grow. The really cool thing about them is they get to be very nice floor plants. They can fill up a room. In my bedroom, I have palms on both sides of my bed that I love, that they're very big and tall and pretty, give a nice tropical feel to a space. These guys, very few problems with pests and diseases usually if they're being grown properly, and they just keep growing and growing. Another one of my favorite plants that also does get large and is a very pretty plant, a little bit thicker leaf too, is the schefflera, so the umbrella tree. Another really pretty plant indoors, gets nice and big. This one does need higher light than a lot of these other plants. That's another one of my prerequisites for easier plants, is that they can tolerate lower light conditions than a lot of plants, because a lot of homes have that issue with lower light. So all these plants here also do well in medium light. The schefflera is more on the medium to bright light side. Another really easy to grow plant, one of my favorites too, is the arrowhead plant. You can see the leaves are shaped like arrowheads. I have another one that's a lot bigger than this guy. They will grow for years, very healthy. They come in various shades, various colors. There's some lime green ones, there's some darker green ones. This one has a very pretty pink in the center of the leaves. So that one's very easy to grow as well. I have another video on growing the arrowhead plant. Here is Lucy, spider plants, also notorious for being very easy to grow. She was revived because she was in a series. She's been in a series and she's doing really well. And she, so once again, when you have if you're doing a good job growing this plant and the other plants, it's pretty easy to grow overall. So some of them, yes, are a little bit more difficult than others, but overall these are easy, nice beginner plants to have in your collection. So another one really nice plant is the ZZ plant. And this guy's pretty big here, so show you the leaves, if you can see that. And this one, as you can see in the foliage here, is a thicker foliage, almost looks like a succulent, though it isn't. And this plant, I just recently did a video on this plant as well. Nice overview of how to grow it. Gorgeous plant, very easy to grow. Gets nice and big and impressive. It makes a nice architectural statement with the leaves. Another really easy plant to grow. So let's see. Oh, and we cannot forget the pothos. So pothos, one of my favorites for nice for hanging baskets. You can also train them to go up a trellis. I know someone who has trained it all the way around the base at ceiling level, kind of like a valance around her room. So pothos, another very easy plant to grow, and does a good job of making your house as pretty too, especially if you do it in hanging baskets or hanging over on furniture and that sort of thing. So that one also, the pothos, you can forget to water it and it will spring back. I do have to say with that one though, it will lose some leaves along the way, usually some, so be more careful about that. But it doesn't do that until it gets very dry. So it's just try to get to it before it gets very dry. So because then you have the issue of having vines with no leaves on them, but it's pretty easy. It'll spring back if you cut it back and let it grow again. So that is it for easy to grow plants. Mentioned lighting, watering, pests and diseases. Low moisture, most of these don't need extra moisture, extra coddling in terms of if you have dry air. They will do well in many different humidity levels in the air. And They are also all pretty tolerant of different heavy minerals in general. If you have a lot of minerals in your waters, they don't tend to get as much the leaf tip burn as some varieties of plants. The ones that may get that more than the others could be the palms and the dracaenas, especially the thinner leafed ones, but even thicker leaves ones as well. Sometimes the spider plant, but once again, they're easier to grow. They're more tolerant. So basically, I could call this the more tolerant house plants to grow in your indoor garden. Well, thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.